Welcome back. We're in section 6.2. We're going to be talking about the law of cosines. Now, law of cosines is once again used to find a missing side or a missing angle in a non-right triangle. It's another method. So what we have here is the law of cosines, where a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus the quantity of 2 times b times c times the cosine of a. And you can see when we have a squared, it's the cosine of a. B squared, it's the cosine of b. C squared, the cosine of c. We also have an alternative form where it's cosine of a equals or cosine of b equals or cosine of c. They're just rewrites. So we can look at rewriting it. So a squared equals b squared plus c squared, c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. So let's say we wanted to isolate the cosine of a. What we would do is we would subtract b squared and subtract c squared. Actually, let's do it differently. Sorry. I don't feel like dealing with a negative, so I'm going to add 2bc cosine of a to both sides. So we have a squared plus 2bc cosine of a equals b squared plus c squared. Subtract a squared from both sides. We get 2bc times the cosine of a equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared. And then to get cosine of a by itself, divide both sides by 2bc. And there's our alternate form. Cosine of a equals b squared plus c squared minus a squared over 2bc. And as you can see, there it is right there. There's that alternate form. What you would do is when you have the a squared equals, that's when you're looking for a side. And you would use that alternate form when you're looking for an angle. So given A, B, and C, we have all three sides. Let's find our three angles. So when we do this, we want to find the largest angle first. I'm just going to make a sketch. Just help me visualize. Put C here, A here, and B here. That way the longest side is there at the bottom. C is 14, and A is 8. So we're given all three side lengths. So let's find the largest angle first, which is angle B. So since we're solving for angle B, the cosine of B equals a squared plus c squared minus b squared over 2ac. So the cosine of b equals a squared. So it's going to be 8 squared plus 14 squared minus 19 squared over 2 times 8 times c, which is 14. All right, so once again, we're not using cosine. We're looking for the inverse to find the angle. Cosine inverse of both sides. So the measure of angle B equals the cosine inverse. Be very careful when you type this in. Use your grouping symbols, 8 squared plus 14 squared minus 19 squared. You'd want to put that whole numerator in parentheses and then divide by the whole denominator in parentheses. 2 times 8 times 14. And we're taking the cosine inverse of both sides. So angle B, when you type that in, make sure you're in degrees, 116.80 degrees. Now, let's find an angle. Now, we're not going to go through that law of cosines again. We can use the law of sines now. So let's find angle A. So let's use A over the sine of A equals B over the sine of B. We don't know the measure of angle A, so let's go 8 over the sine of A equals B, which is 19 over 116.8. Oh, sorry, the sine of 116.8. Cross multiply, 8 times the sine of 116.8 equals 19 sine of A. Divide both sides by 19. The sine of A is 8 sine 116.8 divided by 19. Then we'll take the sine inverse of both sides. So angle A is the sine inverse of all of that. You're going to get about 22.08 degrees. And now to find angle C, 180 minus the quantity of 116.8 minus 22.08. So angle C has a measure of about 41.12 degrees. And there we go. Let's try another one. Side B is 15, side C is 10, and angle A is 115. So we are given two sides and an included angle. We need to find the remaining sides and angles. So here, let's make this angle A our obtuse angle. And that's 115. We'll call this B and we'll call this C. Doesn't really matter. This is a 15 centimeters and this is 10 centimeters. So what we could do is find the length of side A first. So A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of A. We're going to use that law of cosines. A squared equals 15 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 15 times 10 times the cosine of 115. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the square root of both sides. So A equals, we're going to use the positive square root because we're looking at a length, the square root of 15 squared plus 10 squared minus 2 times 15 times 10 times the cosine of 115. So we can find the side length. We type that into the calculator, and you're going to get about 21.26. Now we're going to find the missing angles. And to find the missing angles, we could use law of cosines, but it's too much work. Let's use the law of sines. A over the sine of A equals B over the sine of B. So 21.26 over the sine of 115 equals 15 over the sine of B. Cross multiply. 21.26 times the sine of B equals 15 times the sine of 115. Divide both sides by 21.26. The sine of angle B is 15 sine of 115 over 21.26. And then to find the measure, take the sine inverse of both sides. And when you do that, you're going to get about 39.75 degrees. So now to find angle C, 180 minus the sum of 39.75 plus 115. So angle C is about 25.25 degrees. So we're using that law of cosines in conjunction with law of sines once again. All right, let's go to the next page. Problem number 3, an application. So the pitcher's mound in a women's softball field is 43 feet from home plate, and the distance between the bases is 60 feet. They call it a diamond, but it is a square because of the 4 right angles. So it's 60 feet between the bases. Now, the pitcher's mound is back here, and that's 43 feet from home plate. The issue is it doesn't create a right triangle since it's not halfway. Now we need to find out how far the pitcher's mound is from first base, and we don't know. Actually, I guess we do know. We are bisecting that. So this is 45 degrees. Excuse me. We do know an angle. So we can use the law of cosines. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cosine of a. We'll call this side A, and this will be angle A over here. And that's really all that really matters. A squared equals b squared, so it'll be 60 squared plus 43 squared minus 2 times 60 times 43 times the cosine of 45. So A is going to be equal to the square root of all of that. 60 squared plus 43 squared minus 2 times 60 times 43 times the cosine of 45. Take the positive square, you're going to get 42.43 feet. So it's about 42.43 feet to first base. Okay, we'll do some more examples tomorrow in the next video. Thank you.